Hey, what is up everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, I wanted to talk about the best 70s movies in my collection on 4K. So some of the 4Ks from the 1970s, movies from the 1970s that I think just look the best on 4K. So I've got 10 titles that I'm going to be talking about. Sorry guys, I shook the camera already. I got 10 titles that I'm going to be talking about and recommending to you guys. I'm also going to be trying to give you all price points on Amazon. I will link as much as I can down below in the description. I'm going to be trying to find the best deals for you guys. So I may find some other deals after I'm done recording, but I will link everything down below in the description. So yeah, I want to do more of these types of recommendation videos. I've done a lot of them in the past. I may do one for the 80s. I may do one for the 90s, but the 1970s, from what I've noticed since I've started, watching movies on 4K, like some of these movies, like I feel like it just look the best on 4K. And I'm generally blown away by stuff that I see from the 1970s on 4K. So I'm excited to talk about these titles, but before we get into it, guys, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys. I've wasted enough of your time already. Let's talk about the Godfather movies. Now, this is a little bit of a cheat because I'm including Godfather Part 1 and Part 2 as one pick here. But these movies like really blew me away on 4K. My goodness, they look excellent. Both classics, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. This is the box set release. Now, this does have Part 3 in it, but I'm not talking about Part 3. That was in the 90s. But both of these movies from the 1970s, you got Godfather and you got Godfather Part 2 right here, just looked incredible. Like the moment that you saw Marlon Brando step out of the shadows in that first shot of The Godfather, like it just had so much weight and substance to it and just looked so great with that HDR. I was just blown away. Like I had seen these movies before, to be honest. I'd never been the biggest Godfather fan, but after I watched these movies on 4K, like I was a believer of these movies. Now, I am a Godfather 1 kind of person. I know there's some people that think that Godfather Part 2 is the best of the two. I get that. It's certainly the longest of the two. This clocks in almost 4 hours. This one's 3 hours. So both of these are a whole lot of movie, but both of these are so good. Like I still love The Godfather Part 2. I just think that The Godfather is just like an iconic, untouchable film. And, it's honestly a complete experience for me. Like, I feel like as much as I love Godfather Part 2, and it did a lot to flesh out the characters and the story of Michael Corleone, like Godfather Part 1 is really a complete movie. Like the way it ends, of course, is open for some other stuff to be told, another story to be told. But like, I feel like it could have ended the way that it ended and it would have been fine. It would have been extremely dark and tragic, but it still ultimately would have been a complete experience. So I love The Godfather Part 1, and I also love The Godfather Part 2, but both of these movies, I was blown away. They may be the best restorations that Paramount has ever done. Now, there's several options to get these movies on 4K. You can get this pack right here. I've got something. What is this? Something's in the pack that's moving around, preventing me from getting these in here right. So these are like little digi cases inside this big box set. But you can get this box set. It's on Amazon right now, guys. Hold on, I got the price here. I just got to scroll over. For $55.03. So I have seen this a lot cheaper. I've seen this down to like $39.99. So maybe hold off and pick this up, when it goes on sale or something. I'll try to update you guys if it ever goes on sale. Now you can, if you don't want Part 3, because a lot of people aren't Part 3 fans, even though this does include Coda, which a lot of people say is significantly better than Part 3, then you can just get Part 1 and Part 2 on 4K. They have standalone 4Ks with slipcovers for about $20. And I think you can still get some steelbooks as well. I think the steelbooks are still available for like $25, $26 if you want to go with that option. But I honestly would just get this set, guys. Godfather Part 3 is not a terrible film to me. Like, I think that Coda does improve it quite a bit. But the Godfather trilogy on 4K, this is a must-own in the collection. Some of the best movies from the 70s on 4K. Of course, guys, look, we got to talk about Jaws. I got it on the shirt right here for a reason. Jaws is just one of the best 4Ks that has ever been made, like by any studio, by any boutique label that has ever been put out there. It's one of the best restorations that I've ever seen, certainly. Now, I got this back in 2020, and I did not have my OLED TV like I do now. So I thought it was good back then, but I had some like issues with it. I was like, I don't know why everybody's, praising this 4K. I watched it on the OLED over this past summer on the 4th of July. And my God, I was just blown away. Like, the shark itself just looks so good. It's crazy to me, like, how good this shark looks. Like, this movie is from 1975. I still think it's the best movie shark. Like, no shark that has ever been put to screen looks as good as Bruce the Shark does in Jaws. Like, it's so incredible what Steven Spielberg was able to do, the realism he was able to bring with that mechanical shark, and in the fact that it didn't work half the time, he couldn't show it till the very end, but I still think that mechanical shark, you can see that it's mechanical, but it's almost because it's mechanical, it doesn't have a lot of life to it, that it's scarier. And you can just see its eyes, the way its eyes look and the way it moves. I don't know, something about it is just incredibly realistic to me. Like, all the sharks in movies nowadays, Deep Blue Sea and The Shallows. A lot of people praised The Shallows when it came out, but you can just tell it's a CGI shark, and it just takes me out of it every time, and I just can't get into those movies. Jaws is the gold standard. It always will be. For a reason, and this movie looks incredible on 4K. Like, the ocean, the boat going out on the ocean, all that stuff just looks incredible. Up close shots, facial detail. This is like a perfect 4K. You can get Jaws on 4K for $17.79, so it's a very cheap 4K, and I would honestly recommend getting Jaws 2 as well, and that shark looks awesome as well. I like Jaws 2. I think Jaws 2 is an underrated sequel, which also came out in the 70s. So yeah, get Jaws 2 on 4K as well. And my next pick, we're going to talk about some Dario Argento. Let's get into Deep Red on 4K. I love this movie. To be honest, it's my favorite Dario Argento movie. Now, this is an Italian horror film. If you're not acclimated to the style of the Italian horror film, it may take you a couple of them to get into, but to be honest, I find this one to be the most accessible Italian horror film. And to me, it's the best film that Dario Argento ever made. It is my favorite Dario Argento movie, but this one came out in 1975, same year as Jaws. I think it's an excellent 4K. There's so many bright, vivid colors in this, and the gore with the blood, all that stuff looks excellent with that HDR. And I believe this one had Dolby Vision as well. I could be wrong, but Arrow put this out and I believe 2021, but a spectacular 4K for a spectacular movie. And look, this is not the only time I'm going to be mentioning Dario Argento on this list, but I love Deep Red, and I had to mention it. And you can get it right now, guys, for $29.99, which is not a bad deal at all, because I don't know if you're going to get this hardbox case anymore. And you got some cool artwork on the back. You got Daria Nicolodi on there, which I think this was the first movie that she was in with Dario Argento. But you got booklets in here. You got tons of special features. It's just a great 4K. It looks excellent, and I love Deep Red. It's a giallo movie. If you're not familiar with giallo, that is basically the combination of film noir mystery and a slasher film. So if you're into that kind of stuff, like I said, Italian horror is just very different. It's an acquired taste, but once you get into that world, like, you just fall in love with it. So I love Deep Red, and I do highly recommend it on 4K. It's an excellent 4K. Let's talk about some Martin Scorsese, and we're going to talk about Taxi Driver on 4K. Now, I will say, let me take this out of the case, because I don't love these Columbia Classics cases. You got the iconic poster on the 4K. That's what I like right there. But I will say, this is only available in the Columbia Classics box set volume 2. Now, it's rumored to get a standalone 4K release. I think there was some pre-order listing, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be coming this year for sure. But like, it kind of sucked when this came out. I don't think a lot of people got to experience the greatness of the Taxi Driver 4K, because people did not want to get an entire box set just to watch one movie on 4K. But I will say, guys, like, this was an awesome experience to get to watch this movie on 4K. It was such a great 4K, incredibly detailed, and those streets, like, I was just noticing things I'd never noticed before. This is honestly, it's up there with Raging Bull. It's definitely in contention for my favorite Martin Scorsese film. But yeah, just the street lights and the color of the cab and just the colors of the city at night, all that stuff looks excellent. Great detail. And Taxi Driver is just one of the best 4Ks from the 70s. And it's a shame, guys. It's a shame that not everybody got to experience it. when it came out, because I don't think a lot of people bring this one up, but it is one of the best 4K restorations that I have seen for sure. So hopefully we'll get that standalone release at some point this year. All right, guys, let's talk about Suspiria on 4K, the other Dario Argento movie on my list. This one came out in 1977. Suspiria is a very different kind of horror film. It's definitely more, it's not a giallo. Some people will make the mistake and call this one a giallo, and it definitely has a lot of the hallmarks of the giallo film, but it's not really a mystery noir film. It's not really a slasher film. It's more of a witchcraft movie. It's a movie about witches, and it's a supernatural film. Now, again, there are some slasher elements, some giallo elements, but I'd say it's more supernatural than it is giallo. But Suspiria, guys, look, I talked about Jaws being the best 4K from the 70s. I would honestly probably give that crown to Suspiria. This is probably not just the best 4K of the 70s, but maybe the best 4K that has ever been put out. It's probably the best 4K restoration. The reason for that is because of the incredible colors that Dario Argento showcases in this film and its cinematography and the set design. And there is so many bright, vivid colors, so many reds, so many blues, so many purples. Like, it's crazy. This whole movie, every single frame of it is a work of art. Like, you could just take a shot of any part of this movie and frame it on your wall. It's a work of art. This whole movie is a visual feast for the eye. So you put that in 4K with HDR, and my God, you just have one of the best 4Ks. So Suspiria, guys, look, it's a wacky, deranged film. There is no logic to this movie at all. Like, you watch this movie not for the characters in the story, even though I like the characters in the story. You watch this for the mystique, you watch it for the vibe, you watch it for just the style. Like, it is all style over substance. I love it. I love every part about it, to be honest. But like, when you watch this, don't expect some kind of like deep horror film. Don't expect like The Exorcist or something like that. I feel like people do kind of praise it and put it on that kind of pedestal, the people that do know this movie. It's something different, but I think that once you allow yourself to go into that bizarre world of Italian horror, you'll really enjoy this movie. So I love Suspiria, and it looks great on 4K, guys. This may be the best 4K, like I said, that has ever been put out. And I also forgot to mention that I did recently watch this one, and I watched it on the OLED for the first time because I did not have that TV the last time I watched this on 4K, and I thought it looked great back when I watched it the first time, but on the OLED, oh my God, just absolutely mind-blowing. Now, if you're going to get this on 4K, guys, on Amazon right now, currently, you're going to pay a pretty good price. But to be honest, I think when this came out, it was like $50. So it hasn't really gone up, and it's only gone down. So you can get it for $41.33 on Amazon right now. And like I said, it is probably the best 4K of all time, in my opinion. So, all right, guys, we have now from 1979, Francis Ford Coppola's other masterpiece from the 70s, beyond the Godfather films, and that is Apocalypse Now. So I had not seen this movie since I got this release back in 2019, and I believe I watched the theatrical cut on 4K when I got it. I watched the final cut the other night in 4K, and for the first time on the OLED. And this movie just looks magnificent on 4K. I thought it looked good back in the day, but oh my God, like, everything is so vibrant. Like, this has that jungle setting, and you had the fire from the explosions and the napalm. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. And this is just such a great 4K. Like, I was honestly blown away watching this. And the final cut is 3 hours, so I spent a lot of time watching this movie on 4K. But you knew I was going to mention it because I got it on the TV back there. But this is a really cool edition. It is not available right now on Amazon. It's actually out of print, I believe. But I was looking I Googled it, and I found that it was available at some Barnes & Noble locations for $40. So maybe check your local Barnes & Noble. But other than that, you can't really get this. I hope they re-release it with like a slipcover or something in the future, because you can't really get this release. But this was a great release. Like, I hope you didn't sleep on it when it came out, because this is a 6-disc set. And I remember getting this at Walmart for like $17.99. Like this thing was a steal when it came out, and it's such a big box set release. Like Lionsgate, I don't think has done something like this since. But you open this up, and I got a digital code, guys. I don't know if I've given it away or if it's expired or anything, but you can see if it works. But yeah, you got it's a 6-disc set. I got one of them back in there in the player, but you have the final cuts on 4K. You have the theatrical cut and Apocalypse Now Redux on 4K. So you have 3 cuts on 4K. You also have all 3 cuts on Blu-ray. And you have Hearts of Darkness, which is the documentary about the filming, the making of Apocalypse Now and all the problems that went into making that movie, which I watched that the other night as well. So I watched the final cut, the 3-hour final cut, and then I watched the documentary Hearts of Darkness. And what a fascinating documentary that was, that really fleshes out everything that went into making this movie. Like for the issues that Francis Ford Coppola dealt with making that were really just astounding to listen to. And then you got an additional disc with a ton of special features. So this is really the definitive set for Apocalypse Now, which, like, I liked the movie the first time I watched it, but like now I really love this film. And the difference between all the cuts, and a lot of people would say this is a war film. I don't know if I would really classify this as a war movie. It's definitely in the war movie genre, but it's more of a psychological horror movie almost, especially that last hour when you meet Marlon Brando's character of Colonel Kurtz. Like some of those scenes at the end are just absolutely horrifying, but everything leading up to that, like the unraveling of Martin Sheen's character as they're taking the boat ride down the Vietnam River to Cambodia, like that, all that stuff is just like nightmare fuel, like some of the stuff they have to deal with during that ride. So I honestly would classify Apocalypse Now as more of a psychological horror film than I would a war film, even though there's a lot of great war sequences. Like my favorite part of the movie is the stuff with Robert Duvall, because I just think that Robert Duvall is such a fascinating character in this movie. The fact that he is this like wartime leader, but at the same time, like he just can't shut up about surfing. I think that's such an interesting character trait. So I love all this stuff with Robert Duvall, and all the stuff at the end with Marlon Brando is great as well. But a great movie for sure, but the final cut is 3 hours. The theatrical cut was 2.5. And the Redux version is the one that they did back in 2001. And, that was Francis Ford Coppola adding in a bunch of stuff that they cut back in 1979. And then the final cut they actually did for this version. And I believe the stuff that they cut out, because the Redux is like 3 hours and 20 minutes and the final cut is 3 hours. I think they cut out a lot of the stuff that fleshes out Marlon Brando's character of Colonel Kurtz a little bit more. And they thought that was unnecessary. So they cut it out for the final cut, which came out in 2019 for the 40th anniversary. But this is the definitive edition right here. But I also do have another edition of Apocalypse Now. I have this beautiful Lionsgate Steelbook that I believe came out in 2021, which is also not available, unfortunately. But hopefully, because Lionsgate is reissuing some of the Steelbooks through Walmart, hopefully we get a reissue of Apocalypse Now. But this is a gorgeous, gorgeous Steelbook, guys. But the thing about this is that you only get the final cut with this release. You do not get Redux, and you do not get the theatrical cut on 4K. You only get the final cut on 4K. And I have another digital code. If anybody wants it, there you go. And, they're probably both redeemed, because I do giveaways all the time. But who knows? And next on the list is a Vinegar Syndrome title, and this movie's from 1979. We have the Amityville Horror. So I haven't really got a chance to talk about this one too much. I don't think I did a review when this one came out. But this was an excellent 4K for one of the most classic ghost story movies, haunted house stories. It's got Margot Kidder. It's got James Brolin. I always want to say Josh Brolin, but that's his son. But an incredible movie, and this movie looked incredible on 4K. Vinegar Syndrome always does a top tier job with their 4K restoration. So I love this movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies from the 70s, and I'm glad it got this treatment from Vinegar Syndrome. And you got some really great artwork on this one as well, and I was happy to pick this one up with the slipcover and everything, and it's got some incredible special features. So yeah, just the full treatment right here from Vinegar Syndrome for the Amityville Horror, and I cannot say enough good things about this movie and this 4K. And you can still get the Amityville Horror right now, guys. Let me look real quick for $29.37 on Amazon. I don't know if it's still available with the slipcover on the Vinegar Syndrome website, but you can still get it, just the regular 4K version on Amazon for $29.37. So, all right, we got 3 more to talk about on this list. I'm going to try to speed things up a little bit. Zombie, directed by Lucio Fulci. This is probably my favorite Lucio Fulci movie. I love this film. And this one just blew my mind and made me a believer of Blue Underground and their 4K restorations, because every restoration that Blue Underground does is just immaculate. It just looks excellent. So I thought this one was awesome. Like the actual zombies in this movie. This is probably my favorite zombie movie as well. They're just so disgusting, and you get to see every single detail up close, and it just looks fantastic in 4K. The makeup effects, the blood, the gore, all of it just looks great. This is also from 1979. And yeah, this is probably one of the most underrated zombie movies. I don't hear a ton of people talking about this one. So if you haven't seen Zombie, it's also an Italian horror film. So like I said, it kind of plays in that bizarre world of Italian horror. So you have to get a little bit acclimated to that. But it is, at the end of the day, it's a zombie movie, and all zombie movies are pretty much the same. A group of people go to an island. It's kind of almost like a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, really. Zombie's excellent. Check it out. This 4K is excellent from Blue Underground. And you can get it currently, guys, for $29.99. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about Carrie on 4K. You know, I had to bring up my girl Carrie. I love this movie. It is my favorite Brian De Palma film, and I've seen quite a few of Brian De Palma's films recently. I love him as a director, but this movie to me is just one of the most classic horror films. I watched it recently because I checked it out with this Arrow Video 4K, which I also purchased. I did a little comparing between the two. In a short, I will say that the Arrow version has a little bit higher bit rate, and it does look a little cleaner on 4K than the Screen Factory version, but they both look excellent. And to be honest, this big chunky box set release is going to run you about $40 if it's still even available on Diabolic. Whereas you can get this 4K release right now on Amazon for $27.99, and you can also get what I don't have in the collection, which I might order after I'm done filming, because I just found out about this. But the Steelbook's currently on sale for like $19.90 or something like that. So it's a really good price for the 4K Steelbook. So if you want this movie on 4K, the Steelbook option is going to be your best bet to get it at the cheapest price. But I love this movie. It's a classic horror film. It's Stephen King's first book, and it's also his first film adaptation. So it's definitely historic in that aspect. But Sissy Spacek is just so great at this character, and that prom scene at the end is so epic and so grand in scale, and it just looks so good on 4K. So both of these 4Ks are great though, guys. The Arrow Video version, the Screen Factory version, I would recommend both of them. And lastly, guys, we have from, I believe, 1974. This one came out from Kino Lorber back in 2023, I believe, the beginning of 2023. And that is Death Wish on 4K. So I thought this was a great 4K. It wasn't like one of the best 4Ks that I ever seen, but this is such a dark and gritty film, and I thought that Kino Lorber probably did about as good a job as they could on this 4K restoration. I actually thought it looked pretty damn good, considering that it's, you know, like I said, just a very grungy movie, very dirty film, but I thought they cleaned it up nicely, and it looked really awesome on 4K, so I would recommend Death Wish on 4K for sure. And this is such a great movie. It's a classic revenge film. Like all of these vigilante revenge movies owe everything to Death Wish with Charlie Bronson back in 1974. It really started that entire genre, or just brought it into the mainstream in a whole new way. So, and the 4K is also available, I forgot to tell you guys, for $27.99 on Amazon right now currently, which is a good price, and it's got a lot of good features and you know, audio commentaries and all that good stuff. So thank y'all so much for watching this video. My favorites, the best 70s movies on 4K in my collection. Appreciate it. Let me know some of your picks down below in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Turn on bell notifications for all future videos and other content reviews, whatever I do next on this channel. Follow me on all my social media accounts down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.